The show is about to start. Thank you for your cooperation. Enjoy the show, and please come back and visit us again.
You can't touch this. You can't touch this. You can't touch this. You can't touch this. You can't touch this.
All right, everybody, 9 Years podcast. Nick Draper here with Stuart Deacons, as always. I don't know where to start this week. We've got so much to get through, so much to talk about. Don't have any player interview this week, Stu. We've just got a lot of current footballing issues to discuss. We should also say, of course, we will have all the usual features. Neil Cox's Pairs will make its return. It's the last week of the Sunderland documentary, the final episode featuring Wimbledon FC at Selhurst Park this week, and then we'll be looking ahead to the games this Saturday, Sunderland, and then West Ham next week in the League Cup. With that said, Stu, we need to get into, basically Tuesday night, because the 0-0 draw with Barnsley, as well-deserved and as good a performance as that was, that's long in the memory now. That's long gone, forgotten about completely, to be honest, because of Tuesday night and all the various issues. So where do we begin with this one? We lost 3-1 at home, so 3 clean sheets out of 3 in the league. That got torn apart on Tuesday. We're now in a negative goal difference. Let's start. Let's look at what went wrong and why we lost the game, and let's start with the changes. So, 5 changes to the starting lineup. Toby Civic, Rod McDonald, Mitch Pinnock, Anthony Wordsworth, Joe Pickett all came in. I've not got the list here, but off the top of my head, Tenai Watson, Deji Oshalaja, which we'll speak at length about, I think. Scott Wagstaff. Who else came out of that team? Tom Sawers and James Hansen. They were the ones that came out. So, Neil Ardley said to expect changes with a long run of Saturday, Tuesday games. Was 5 too many? And at this stage of the season, do we really need to worry about fitness levels? We're still in August.
Yeah, it's one of the things I was saying to you, wasn't it? We've got a young, Neil Ardley's gone on record and said that he's reduced the average age to his team. So you sort of also think these players are fitter. I know match fitness is different to natural fitness. It did feel too many changes. In hindsight, you can always say, well, that was obviously the reason for the result. Actually, to be honest with you, the first 10 minutes was end-to-end stuff, and we had a number of chances. And I think it was the old adage about, goals change games. That was it last night, in terms of we just didn't score when we had the chances, and we had a lot of chances. But, now reflecting...
Did we?
I think we had a lot of chances in terms of putting balls into the box, didn't we? A lot of crosses. We got Barsham into good areas. We got Pinnock into decent areas. If you think about the clear-cut chances, I could tend to agree with probably the one was Kwesi when he sort of done an air kick, didn't he? When really it probably looked easy to get a connection.
I think this is when Will Nightingale challenged for a cross. The keeper dropped it from a corner, and it fell to Kwesi, and he basically missed his kick.
I think what's different this year, and I know what you're alluding to, is that, and I think we made it one of our Twitter comments last night, was we probably had more shots from outside the area than we did all last season. I know we had a bit of a laugh with that. So that was probably very true. We've got different types of players now. We've got players like Wordsworth who wants to have a go from distance. We've got people like Pinnock who wants to have a go from distance. Pigott. They all want to shoot from distance when maybe they could slide players in. But then we also have to look at the fact we don't really have a striker who wants to go in behind people. We've got, Kwesi does want to play very much safely outside the area and bits like that. So, yeah, the changes did make an effect. But on the whole, yeah, we got what we deserved. I think we got what we deserved. But, 5 changes is a lot, especially if we're going to make a similar amount for Saturday and then the West Ham game.
Let's get it out of the way now. Deji Oshalaja. So the official line, Neil Ardley said, unbeknownst to us, of course, before the game, because we're not in hospitality, Stu, because we don't pay the money like, the majority of the fans in the stadium on the evening, they were told by Neil Ardley prior to the game that Deji Oshalaja was unwell on Saturday, had been fatigued, and that's why he was not in the starting lineup, and that's why he remained on the bench. This didn't come out to the wider public until later in the evening. Neil Ardley's post-match interview. I don't know. I don't buy it. I know, hey, look, Neil Ardley, that's what Neil Ardley says, so I believe him. Of course I do. I trust Neil Ardley. That's what he says. But there's also a part of me that thinks, ill. If he's ill and he's unwell on the Saturday, does he need to not play a game on the Tuesday? And there's being unwell, and then there's being unwell. He didn't look unwell when he was warming up along the touchline for 90 minutes. Is there more to this?
Hey, look, you can't help but think there is something to it, because we know through social media and that, well, we say we know, but it's led to believe that Ipswich and Bolton have come in with bits. Ipswich obviously have come back in again after failing on the transfer window for permanent transfers, and Bolton seems to be a new one that has come into the mix. So we obviously know that there's been some interest and stuff, and then you put in together with your captain being rested.
Dropped.
Well, whatever the word is now, it's squad rotation now, isn't it? It's the days of dropped. No one really gets dropped anymore. It's squad rotation. I get that, but you have to think there's something more to it, because Deji is 24, 25. He's a fit young man. He can play games back to back. I don't see why we would rest him. He's a captain. You rest everyone. You rest everyone around him. You rest Will. You don't rest Deji. He's your leader. And let's be honest with you, Deji's been excellent since the start of the season. He wasn't my player of the year last year. I'm quite happy to say that Lars Taylor was my player of the year last year. Deji wasn't far off it, but I don't think Deji, in my opinion, was in the top. Deji was probably in the top 3, but he wasn't my ultimate choice. But I have to say, since he got that captain's armband, and since whatever he's done over the summer, Deji come out a different animal this season, and I've been immensely impressed with him. We did miss him, there's no doubt about that. But you have to think, if he's ill, so if someone's got diarrhea or something, or the shits, or can we say that word? We just have. Then you don't want him in the stadium, do you?
We can say it, but did we need to go there? Did we really?
What I mean by that is, if they're unwell, you don't want them near the stadium. You don't want them in the stadium, and we have done that before, where people haven't come to the ground. So if he's not well, he's good enough to be on the bench, and yes, he did warm up quite a bit. Then that's when people go, "Are we being told the truth?" And Neil Ardley hasn't got to tell the truth to the fans all the time, because football is a game where sometimes you just have to stretch the truth and not tell everything, because you don't want to play your hand. He's not going to come out and say we've rested him because we don't want him to get injured and there's a big transfer fee potentially around the corner. But that's what I tend to believe is the case at the moment.
I hope that's the case, and not because I want Deji to leave, but only because if that's not the case, if I don't believe that he was unwell enough that he couldn't have played, and the only other reason is that we decided to rest him, like you say, and I think that's insane. I think if Neil Ardley has decided to rest him because of the amount of games and stuff, that's a bad. I'll go on record and I'll say this to Neil Ardley. I think that's a mistake, and I think, as you have actually pretty much said yourself there, but. This was actually a question raised on Twitter, so I asked for questions just prior to recording for anyone. We'll get through as many of these as we can. It went to places I wasn't quite expecting it to, but Daniel Huckfield did ask the question about Deji. Was he rested or is he on his way? So, Stu, in a word, rested or leaving?
Leaving.
I agree. I think he's on his way. We shall, I guess, when's the loan window shut? End of the month, isn't it? So we've got a couple of weeks. We've got a week, sorry. So we expect we'll know in 7 days' time.
5 p.m. on the 31st. Exactly.
So, next Friday. So we'll know by then. So a little over 7 days. Right. Where do we go from that? Right. Talking about changes then. Walsall, they themselves, I believe, are in the second round of the League Cup, the one-night-only trophy, which has been extended to a second night this year. 0 changes. They did not make one change to their starting lineup. And I think that showed. I think they came out and won that game on Tuesday in the first 15 minutes because they scored when they were causing us problems. And that was that not their game plan? It was just get the goal, get ahead, start early when we're at our freshest, get the goal, and then they just defended the width of their 18-yard line. And we couldn't figure a way to break them down.
Yeah, because you have to think also with Walsall is that they would have got a lift from the fact of seeing that we had Rod McDonald in there. Nothing against Rod, but he's obviously new to the team, and they would also got a lift knowing that we had Toby Sigel playing right back. So there were areas for us to be. There was areas for them to get us, and I noticed quite early on that Ferrier tend to play in between a channel between Will and Toby Sibbett because that was the right place to go. That was the area where there was going to be any uncertainty. That was good because Will was always going to protect Toby Sibbett. That's Will's nature. He did the same thing. I remember at Fleetwood with Tanai Watson. He gets on the cover. So Ferrier against Will Nightingale was a massive battle all evening. But yeah, they come amongst us. They obviously, they must have got a lift. You change the team talk, right, their captain's not playing. They got a youngster, another youngster at right back. They made 5 changes. Let's get amongst them, and that showed because we were like a team that looked that had 5 changes for a good 15 minutes, 20 minutes. They got to go Walsall, and as you rightly say, objective done, and then they basically soaked up. That's the pressure. Soaked up's probably a bit of a nicey way of putting it because there was a lot of pressure in that first half.
Yes, but I think the key to it, again, you could argue, is that both teams come into it unbeaten in the league this season, and one team looked at their squad and looked at their team and thought, let's carry on the momentum. We've got players that are learning to play with each other, learning their roles, building those relationships in key positions. And then we've made our 5 changes. It's Neil hardly overthinking this fitness thing, isn't it? Because we all talk about relationships all over the pitch. Well, the spine of the team has changed again. You've got centre defence, centre midfield, and your strikers. You've got to change all along that line. And I think that's exploited by a team that are more familiar with each other in those first 15 minutes. And also, in fairness to them, their defensive shape as well, which second half just gave us nowhere to go.
Yeah, no. Second half, you could tell that their manager obviously got into them and said, if you can have a team that's going to overload you, our threats were through the middle. There was no doubt about that. Andy Wordsworth had a great first half. Second half was just swamped. There was just nowhere for him. There was nowhere for him to go. He couldn't get into the central areas. He went into the middle. He just went into more congestion. So he didn't really know what to do in the end. And all he ended up doing was dropping deep, getting the ball, and I don't know how many touches that Toby Sibbett had second half, and also Purrington, but I would lay money that they had probably the lion's share of possession because that's where Walsall were very happy for us to go, because then really what you're doing is you're chucking balls in, and in the end we did run out of ideas. We just didn't have enough creativity. In the end we run out of ideas, and it was I felt in the end Walsall run out comfortable winners, albeit we know there was a few mistakes here and there, but I don't believe we were on the way to equalise when Will made that mistake, and the third goal was just a typical evening for us, really.
I mean, you've mentioned Wordsworth's performance there. You mentioned earlier Kwesi Appiah and the fact that he's not a player that likes to particularly get ahead or in behind defences. Is that mainly the problem with our 2 centre midfielders, that neither of them, especially in that second... Well, Anthony Wordsworth did in the first half, but again, he'd get in between the lines, wouldn't he? But he wouldn't go any further forward than that. And second half, the pair of them, always behind the ball, it seemed. Always behind the ball, never in front of the play. Do we not need that someone that's going to burst into the box? I mean, I'm not expecting, the second coming of Robbie Earle to be playing with us in League One, but that style of player.
Yeah, the midfield, I think we needed something a little bit different in the end. Maybe we did need someone like an Anthony Hartigan to come on a bit earlier and sacrifice for Wordsworth in terms of maybe, because it was going to be about picking out proper passes. It was going to be maybe threading the ball through the lines and stuff like that. And Anthony Hartigan can do that.
Who's Hartigan going to pick out, though?
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? What you're looking for is, can someone shoot from distance, or can he? Because if you are going to thread a ball, you have to thread a ball through quite a lot of bodies, and that was the problem. We didn't have. Kwesi doesn't want to go in behind, and I don't think Kwesi believes he's got the pace to go in behind anymore. There is definitely an issue that Kwesi has now in terms of, because I remember Kwesi when he came on loan originally, and Kwesi was one that would go in behind because he had the pace, and you have to accept sometimes that when you do get injuries, and injuries that he's had, maybe he has had to change his game a little bit. But we don't have anybody that can run in behind. So when you're as centre halves, when you know that your threat really is going to be in front of you, then you can afford. You're coming for an aerial battle. But if you also that if we had a young, say for say, I'm not going to say Lyle Taylor because we'd be doing that all season otherwise. But say we had Adi Aziz back, then all of a sudden the game it's a change. That's a change because your defence then is thinking, actually, I don't want him running in behind me. I may need to drop a little bit, which then all of a sudden creates your space. But we had, for Walsall, really, they knew where the threats were coming, and they were happy to gamble that if they let the ball go wide to Toby Civic and Harrington, they were prepared to gamble they would win their headers, and they did.
Question on Twitter, George Brown. I won't read out his Twitter handle because it's all letters and numbers. Talking about the centre midfield areas, saying Trotter and Swords. So, I mean, we'll talk about the Sunderland game later. I'm guessing Trotter and Swords both start against Sunderland in a typical Wimbledon Neil Lardley type way to set up, difficult to beat, difficult to concede goals. Difficult to concede goals, and difficult to score goals against. But he's wondering, is there a need to play both, and could Pinnock be that central attacking midfielder?
Pinnock likes to come in. I can see where he's coming from with that, because Pinnock does come into areas. The chance that he had, which I've seen back on the highlights, when he come inside and just literally dragged his shot across the keeper and past the left-hand post. Pinnock likes to come into them areas. He's quite happy. He's quite comfortable. I can see why they would say that. I said on our Facebook Live last night that I think sometimes you might play a three with Wordsworth, and I know you're saying Sunderland are going to come down, and it's maybe the equivalent of Wigan coming down to our place last year, potentially, although Wigan were on a group that we took Wigan on a bit later during the season. But if we go with Swords and Trotter, we're technically going for an away performance, aren't we? I don't see. Do we have to play 4-4-2? I know I'm not going to say that. I know we made last year we changed formation straight away, but is 4-4-2 our only formation that we can play? Can we play a 3-5-2? For argument's sake, could we play three in the central area? Could we play one up front? Having James Hansen, someone in behind it. Is it? I think we just need to be a little bit different.
In danger of overcomplicating things again, though, very early. It seemed very settled at the start of the season and pre-season, where it was 4-4-2, two players roughly for every single position. Keep it, like we said, well, it's been asked, keep it simple. You think if we start getting into formation changes now from the start that we're going to confuse players, perhaps?
Possibly, but I don't think we've resolved it. We said, didn't we, there was quite a lot of chat between social media that we're not scoring the goals. And, that's proven right at the moment. We've got a lot of areas sorted, but have we got the forward line sorted? Is it a case that it's going to come? So if that's, if we're saying that we want to make it simple, then we're probably in belief that actually, do you know what, if we keep doing what we're doing, the goals will come. I'm not sure at the moment. I don't, we chuck him, I think we've got players doing the same runs. At the moment, Pigott is my top forward at the moment. Yeah, I think by the way the substitutions are going, we can see that Paya is the one that's classed as the main striker, the number one, because he doesn't tend to get withdrawn from what I've seen on that. I don't know. I'm not for any minute going to lose the enthusiasm I had from the Fleetwood game and obviously the Pompey performance and stuff like that. I don't want us to become a little bit predictable. If we're just going to chuck balls in the box in nameless areas, then maybe we've got to be a bit different and a bit more creative.
So let's talk about it. The 2 second-half goals we conceded. Ed Paul at Ed93 Paul simply asks, was Nightingale's own goal the best ever by a Wimbledon player?
Yes. I don't tend to remember own goals too much. I'm trying to think. It's probably one of the best ones I've seen live. I can't think own goal wise.
Alan Reeves.
Yeah, okay.
Villa 96, was it? Yeah. Right from Ramsdale, stretches for a ball. There's no one near him. He just volleys it into his own net. I mean, amazing. I don't think Wills is up there with that for the. I don't know what the word is, but
no,
that was more spectacular, perhaps.
And do you know what? And it's Will's error. And he held his hands up. I thought that was really a grown-up, responsible thing to do. I don't know if you noticed it, but he went delivery to Ken Flo and just put his hands out and went, look, acknowledge it, it's my mistake. I thought it was good because he didn't have to go to them. He could have quite easily gone straight to the tunnel, and but I think he took responsibility and owned up that he knew he made a mistake. If you look at it back though, you have to go, why was Toby playing a ball back to Will in such a crazy position? And
you're right. We got a throw in on our 18-yard line, and the ball's gone backwards twice in the space of 2 seconds. Like, there's no need.
Yeah, but it was typical though of Toby last night. I felt Toby. It's probably the first time he's been in that sort of situation where they've had to chase the game, and it felt like, and maybe again this is where I'm not going to harp on about Deji, but maybe it did need a captain figure. I'm trying to think. It was a captain last night in his absence. Was it Trotter?
Trotter, yeah.
Yeah, but it did need someone maybe go, because I felt there was a couple of times where Toby was just trying to push it a little bit too quickly. And that's natural for a youngster, in that situation. And I think where he rushed to throw in again showed where we had to go when you do a throw, everyone, we all know you set the throw up where you're going to throw it. But I thought he put Will in a lot of trouble, and then Will panicked. Didn't look because he didn't have time to look, and then you get what happened. It was, it knocked the stuffing straight out of us, didn't it? Not the stuffing, but I think it's Will's error. I do think he was put in a lot of trouble by the throw as well.
I was just racking my brains there for other comedy own goals in Wimbledon's time. Nothing really comes to mind apart from that Alan Reeves one, to be honest, although many that I remember scored in our favour. I remember a Viking Greenford goalkeeper that just let the ball roll under his foot from a back pass, and it just rolled nicely in. But nothing else really stands out.
No.
To be honest. Right, so where do you want to go from here? Third goal. James Hanson, great defensive header. Set Walsall on the counter-attack.
Yeah.
Amazing. Ferrier gets in. I mean, it's just everything. In the build-up to that goal, there were a few occasions where the balls just dropped against us, didn't fall our way. And then obviously the final one is the clearance that hits Cook and bounces in. It's just a calamitous goal. Summed up our evening, perhaps.
Yeah, it was just the fact that the Hanson header didn't help us, and then we had runners against us, and they did attack us at pace, didn't they? And it was really a little bit. No one really took. We were under pressure then. We're 2-0. We're don't want to jump into attack or give a free kick away. You don't want to give them an opportunity to waste even more times, and then you get Toby. Hey, look, he wouldn't. I don't know if he got a shout that someone was there, but he knocks the ball and it goes in, isn't it? It's the thing with going back to the Hanson header. When he come on, it just felt really. He felt a little bit off the pace. So there was a couple of times where he gave free kicks away because the ball wasn't getting to him. So like when we were knocking a ball into him, we were knocking it short. So in the end, he then had to go over defenders or look clumsy. And that header, the ball actually wasn't the greatest. The ball was in the end. What he tried to do was to run and attack it and flick it, and in the end, just got a massive full contact on it. I think it just summed up. I said, like I say on Facebook Live, I don't think Hanson's a sub. I don't think I've seen him affect a game in what I've gone to. I know Pompey, there was a bit of a difference with that. But it's just I think it's a night you just forget. They always say when records are broken, they go in style, and we've, had no goals conceded in the league. It's just been totally slaughtered, isn't it? So at least that's not there now, and we now start, we go and start another run, hopefully against Sunderland on Saturday.
Were you about to say we go again?
No.
Since that was I could hear it forming.
I possibly might have, but I didn't.
Okay. Only other thing to mention then, I guess, substitutions were pointless really. Then you've mentioned Hanson coming on as a sub, probably doesn't even work. We didn't have another sub until the 88th minute when Hartscombe comes on. Pointless. I mean, that's just a point. I don't even know why we did that, to be honest. And then Quizzy gets a bit of a knock in a very, very closing stages, and that leads to his substitution. That's fair enough. What did you think? There was a note. I know Matt Harwood, who joined us on the Facebook Live immediately after the game, mentioned that around him normally the stands kind of empty in the last 5 minutes, and despite the fact we were 3-0 down, they didn't last night. But there was a noticeable surge towards the exit, I thought, from the terraces immediately when the third goal went in. Do you actually think this result is probably good for expectations. I'll tell you what, I say for expectations, everyone got very excited after the start of the season. New dawn and all this, playing better football. And yes, it was more entertaining. Definitely, it's been more entertaining this season already in its early stages. But do people get ahead of themselves a little bit sometimes? And we went from a real struggle last season, horrible season, to a couple of good results, albeit with only 1 goal in 3 games in the league, to expecting to turn up and beat a team that had also, they got 7 points from their first 9. I mean, our prediction poll on Twitter was something like 90% thought we were going to win the game. We never have it that high, never.
No, hey, look, we're football fans, aren't we? So we all get carried away. That's part of being a football fan is, if you're realistic, then what you're being a football fan, because football fans all are about your dreams, aren't you? Do you know what I mean? Let's be fair. There's only in League One. There's only one club that can win the win the league, and there's another 3 clubs that can go up. And apart from that, all the others are basically just taking part, aren't they? If we were realistic, we'd be like, well, the odds are rubbish, aren't they? We're all dreamers, and we got carried away. We beat Fleetwood. We had a terrific draw at Barnsley. Just look at what they've done against Rochdale, wasn't it? I believe. Was it Rochdale?
Yeah, 4-0, yeah.
Yeah, so they've gone and done Rochdale quite easy. So we know it's a good result. Rochdale and no mugs in this league. And then we've got past the first round of the League Cup for the first time in God knows how long. So, the expectation was there. Look, after the first half, I was really impressed because the team got a round of applause, a real strong round of applause after that, because it was a very good first half. Leaving after the 3rd goal, I don't have an issue with that, if I'm being honest with you. Has it got the expectation back to where it should be? It's one game, isn't it? It's one game of football. If we go and beat Sunderland on Saturday, then that expectation will go back again. I don't mind expectation being there. I'd rather the expectation of us winning a game rather than going in like last year when we felt, are we even going to see anything entertaining, because we didn't last year. This year is miles apart from some of the points we put in last year.
Other issues surrounding last night then were to do with the matchday experience.
Okay.
Yes. Right. How are we going to tackle this one? Okay. So we had a few people on Twitter discuss this and various other issues. So look, this isn't you or me saying this. Okay. You or me. This isn't you or I saying it. I'm saying this. You or me. Who knows? Or particularly cares. Now, there's something not quite right because of the volume of, I say, complaints, concerns, frustrations. Someone might use the word moans about things outside, off the pitch at the moment. And, I mean, it's out there. There's something there. It's not us creating or stirring trouble by saying it. This is what's being communicated to us. So I'm sure it's being communicated to the club. And if it's not being communicated to the club or the Don's Trust, you have to ask again, why is that message not being communicated? That's maybe a thread to pick at another day. So tickets, first of all, so Paul Jata at Essex Womble, I'm sure a number of you will know Paul. He asked about why there wasn't a dry run of the card entry system. That's the first thing we should probably touch on, because there were huge queues last night. So the Coventry game, there didn't seem to be any issues at all. Well, there was minor issues, but nothing that affected, no great trouble. Last night there seems to be huge queues, and I know there were a few fans that were in the terraces that actually decided not to bother trying to even get into the ground before kickoff. They went into the bar and had another drink before they even attempted, because the queues for the terraces were all the way down past the club shop. We're talking Chipstead at home 2002 style queues, delays. Paul's asking why there wasn't a dry run of the system. I think in fairness, Paul, the club did issue a statement on the official website last week, about a week ago, following the Coventry game, explaining why it was so late being entered. Chelsea not happy with whatever, they wanted something else, and there was a problem getting the equipment in timely fashion to actually do a pre-season friendly dry run. But I think there are people still frustrated because of this. It's caused a few issues that the club might need to revisit certain things. There's a thread going on Twitter about that now, if you want to have a look about that. And perhaps an issue with paper tickets being the problem, and I don't know, there seems to be there seems to be confusion over what we can do with the system or not. So the club need to look at that. Problems with the bars. People are unhappy because of a change in what's available at the bars. They're not happy they haven't been asked about this. That's another thing that, again, club need to be wary of because new stadium. Now, here's where I will put my 2 pence in and say consultation on the new stadium, matchday atmosphere. We're getting closer. We're getting closer to being in that new stadium. So what are we going to be consulted on and when is it going to happen? Because the closer we get and the less we hear, people are going to, again, start to get agitated and frustrated. So we need to hear about that as well. And the issues in the Johns Green stand. Now, this is telling us a little bit of a soap opera. Are you aware of this, Stu?
Of course I am, because I know quite a lot of people that are unhappy with it. I do have a balanced approach to it. I know the people that are in that group, and hey, come on, look, they can be. What's the word I'm looking for? Excitable.
Yes, I think there is. So from what I understand, basically what's happened is there's a group of fans that sit right at the back of the John Green stand that like to create the atmosphere. And it's been noticed. I mean, you're aware of them because there's atmosphere coming from the John Green stand, and that's the reason why.
Yeah.
So apparently there's a problem because some people have got season tickets not behind. See, I thought this was confusion. Apparently just adjacent to them, which means that when those fans stand, they're not stood for 90 minutes, by the way. But when they stand up, as football fans do, when they get excited, when there's moments, opportunities for us to score and things like that, they're actually complaining that these people are standing up. Oh, do you know, we had this last season. You know, we played Milton Keynes last season. We got the penalty. Last Saturday, we got the penalty. And people were yelled at because whilst waiting for Lyle to take the penalty, they were standing up. Now, in the history of my entire life, my entire life, when you get a penalty, you stand up because you're just waiting for the penalty to go in. And the moment the ball hits the net, you stand up and applaud anyway.
Yeah, but doesn't it also mirror what happens in the Paul Strang stand?
That's what I mean. It's in the Paul Strang stand. Yeah, this was
the
Lyle incident. Yeah.
There's nothing different that's happening. What's happening in the John Green stand is nothing really different to what's happening in the Paul Strang stand, is it? It's do you know what? I think what's happened. I think the main gripe is the fact that the stewards are very heavy-handed.
That's the main gripe. Yeah,
and it feels from what happening is. And again, we're only hearing this from what we've been told. So I'm not saying any of this is factual because the stewards have a different. You know, to add real balance, and I've seen this firsthand, the stewards have a real difficult job, and sometimes the way they're spoken to by some of our fans, I'm not surprised sometimes the way they are not maybe the most communicative, because I have seen them. Well, it's not a word, is it? But I'll just create it again. But what I mean is that
smoothly just invented a word there.
Yeah, I just think, do you know what? I think any good steward or any good group of stewards, because they are a team. You know, when we get there for match days, they're always being spoken to as part of different teams, and they are a team together. I think a good team of stewards are the ones that communicate well. So, you know, these are the rules. Do them. If they don't do them, we're going to have a problem. But actually, you know, if we work together, we can enjoy the game together.
Common sense approach.
Yeah, and that's how I think it should always be approached. And from what I'm sensing at the moment is there's a real conflict between a group of fans in the John Green stand and the stewards, who are now making it really unpleasant for those group of fans to enjoy their matchday experience. And we do want an atmosphere, but we also have to accept that the stewards have to be consistent when the away fans are doing exactly the same thing, and they can't pick on a group of, I think we're looking at 20 of them, and think they're easy to tackle. They're easy to tackle, and they're all getting old as well. Do you know what I mean? So they should sit down more often anyway. They're easier to tackle than maybe a group of 100 away fans in the away. You've got to be consistent. I think that needs, again, some communication from the club to the stewards, those group of fans, about what's acceptable. Because we know them; they're not unreasonable things, but they obviously want to enjoy and stand up a little bit. They're at the back of the stand. Although I think one of the issues this year is, from my understanding, is there is some fans who have got new tickets who sit right at the back who don't want them standing up. So
no, this is what I was saying. I think it's not that they're behind them, from my understanding. Someone can clarify this, please. But my understanding was they're actually sort of next to them, adjacent to them. They're not behind them, but because when you stand up for things, you block parts of the pitch, don't you?
I get you.
But football fans stand up at football grounds. It's not like they're standing for 90 minutes. So as you say, it does. Again, you could argue about communication and the way people communicate with each other and discuss things. I understand people be frustrated, like exactly like you've just said there, where if it seems like they're being punished for something that other people are not being for. And it was notable again in the John Green last night. People are standing up all the time in different areas of that stand, but I didn't see 3 stewards rushing to get people to sit down there. Do you know what I mean? It just doesn't seem something's not quite right there. We've had 2 comments on Twitter about this evening. So Justin Homewood at Justin H_86 and Lee Finch at Chips Finch. Justin says, can we talk about how bad the matchday experience at home games is at the minute? A lot of disgruntled fans, including long-serving volunteers who work for the club. Lee then sort of expands on this when he says the bars, the change of drinks, queues, like we've touched on, stewarding. Here's his point. Club saying the night before to create an atmosphere, but the steward said the club has told us to sit down and shut up. It's a fair point. When did we become customers and no longer fans? I mean, we've said for many years the stadium's at breaking point. It's not creaking now. We're no longer creaking. We are breaking because the weight of being a League One club, it just can't sustain it. I think we're seeing that in many areas. The new stadium can't come quickly enough. But I think you've nailed it there, Stu. It's communication. Now, the question I've got is, why are we sat discussing this on a podcast? We're not, I mean, here, in fairness, so I've put out the message on Twitter asking people for their questions. I think I was more thinking it was along the lines of the football, but that's fine. We'll take all questions. But these are things that get said to us a lot. People speak to us, they message us, they say these things. Hey, look, we're out there, we're in the public, I get that, and people know we're here to speak about these things, and we'll please always send it to us. But then should we be the ones to be communicating these things?
No, but if it creates a forum for people to talk and communicate, which is always a key word and stuff. I think then if we can facilitate in that, I think it's about being balanced though. And like I will say, we're quite fortunate in terms of with our access match days, and we do talk a lot to stewards, and I talk a lot to the head. So when I go in early to prep for our Facebook Live and stuff, and there are sort of steward leaders for each group, and I'll be honest with you, I've chatted to a few of them, and they really are good. They communicate. I talk to them quite a lot. They have got a tough job, and we have to also remember that we have ground regulations, which mean actually that we could get fined or stuff. So I think sometimes what happens is a team of stewards maybe take it right to the letter. You can't stand up. We all know that football fans do stand up. So I think it's getting a balance, but it looks at the moment there's obviously a conflict. I think, do we have a liaison, a steward liaison person who can just, can meet them before a game? Because we are a fans club, and, it would be nice if there can be some understanding of why, because at the moment, that group of fans do feel like they're being punished for trying to get an atmosphere, yet they're being told, well, we're going to kick you out. And those fans have been here for many, many years. And even though I know they can be excitable and stuff, I also know that actually they just want it to be fair. And I think that's where they're coming from. But that does need to be sorted out, because that's not going to get any better, I don't think.
No, there are things that I think we need to think about ahead of, like we say, space at the new stadium. Well, we hope. I mean, I don't know, to be honest with you, from things that change and the way the stadium's going to be built and stuff like that. We anticipate there'll be more room and be able to spread. I guess we will be able to spread fans out into wider areas for different facilities and things like that, which will, of course, help problems. I mean, I noticed we might have been saying last night throughout all of this thing. Of course, it's on about Tuesday night if you're listening on the Thursday, but I noticed when I got to the ground, it was absolutely heaving. It was difficult to actually move, and this was outside. Because we had interlocking queues, we had the problems with people with West Ham tickets. We've not even spoken about that yet. Lining up at the comps window for various things. That line seems to be going from the comps window all the way down to the Kenflow turnstiles. The queue into the Kenflow turnstiles is going all the way down to the club shop. Burger van having a queue interrupting people trying to get into the main stands, the main entrance there. It's just hazardous and irritating. And yeah, we've said... Look, John, the very, very first podcast we ever did, available on YouTube now, of course, if you'd like to search for it, episode 1. I said to you about which stadium, if you remember, which stadium in League 2 at the time are you least looking forward to visiting? And my answer to that was Kingsmeadow. And that was, 3 years ago now. I've been sick of it for a long time. We are moving. that will alleviate issues. But I think the key thing, again, communication. But unfortunately, I guess we might need to come back to this one because we talk all the time, communication. It comes to a point where we need to seek solutions to this. And that's not what... And we're guilty. I guess at this moment in time, I'm guilty of that because I'm not offering a solution right now. Give me a week. I'll come back to you next time and see what we can do, perhaps.
I think what I would say, because there's a few... The questions that have come in have been really good, but they're like overlap. They're all going into different areas. I think the ticketing system... We have to understand that Kingsmeadow has a culture of getting there, late or getting there for 10-2 and 10-3 and getting in. Midweek's even worse. Kingsmeadow is not the easiest place to get to sometimes. Trains going to Norburton can be delayed. That Kingston Road can be a nightmare. And midweeks are always difficult. And I think we saw our first midweek game with a new ticketing system, and I think it showed. We also then have to accept that we're not designed to get a game like West Ham with a 2.5 week turnaround. We're just not designed for that. So we've had the fact of a new season, a new ticketing system, Sunderland visiting us on Saturday, then West Ham on top of a new ground. I think we just have to accept that we're at breaking point with the actual backroom staff as such. And the ticketing system, I understand why it comes. I understand why it's come in. I don't know why we needed it so quickly, because I'll give you an example. On the Dave Chan, one of our friends, volunteers and that. How many times have you seen him at 10-3? He knows the culture of our fans. They come out of that bar. They want to get into the ground in no time at all. They do quick bag searches. Get in. He's very, very efficient. Great, Dave is. They can't do that now because with the scanning machine, they've got two machines either side going into the pull string, one entrance going into there. So, of course, now you're going to bottleneck. So you can't get them in because the fans are still doing what they've always done at Kingsmeadow. I'll get here at 7 o'clock. I'll go for a quick drink. It's going a bit long now to get a drink. 7:30, I'll have a wander in. I'll go and get my seat. I've done it for years. It can't happen now. So fans have to adapt. We have to adapt as fans. You need to get there earlier. We've got a new ticketing system. We can moan as much as we like that it's not as good as the old system, but fans don't like change. None of us like change. But I would argue that did we need it? Did we need it before we moved to a new stadium? If we're going to take it to a new stadium, fine. But I don't think we are, because I'm sure we need more ticket machines than what we have at the moment.
Chelsea influence, perhaps. I mean, there's so much to talk through there. Join the conversation on Twitter at 9YRS Podcast and tell us your thoughts, basically, on everything to do with the club at the moment. And do not forget, I believe there's a Don's Trust SGM coming up in a couple of weeks. So what I'll try and do as we carry on recording is I'll confirm the date for that. And there's your opportunity. There's your opportunity to put these issues forward to the people in charge and get your voice heard. That's how it should be at our fan-owned, fan-run, trust-owned football club. Right, we've spoken for ages. We need to scrap things. I'm looking at the script. That's coming out. We don't have time now. We're running late.
That's sounding great. Can I say something very quickly? Brentford, of course, everyone knows when we're recording this because we can't really lie. This is Wednesday night, we're recording this. Brentford have probably the worst away kit I've ever seen. However, I actually wish we could have it. They have a brown kit with orange top halves to it. It shouldn't work. It doesn't work. I quite like it.
Stu, you like the Rygas branding?
I do. I'm getting old now, so I like bright colours. I'm just thinking, because Villa to me has got the most dullest. I've always said Villa Park is dull because it's got Villa Park is dull.
Okay. Right. It's the best stadium. It's one of the best stadiums in the country.
Well, I don't know. I think it's quite dull because it's got the team that's got the most dullest kit. It's maroon, isn't it? It's just not. It reminds me. Do you ever remember playing Sutton United before Sutton United got a bit of money? And Sutton United, I don't think they ever used to change their kit. It was a really horrible mustardy yellow.
Yeah. It
was just like, oh crikey. Villa reminds me of them. It's just like the kit's a bit. It always looks like it's been a bit old and a bit tatty. I'm not too sure if a team that's playing in maroon against a team that's playing in brown, it's quite boring. I mean, I know I've digressed, but if you get a chance, have a look at the Brentford away kit.
I've switched it on now. I kind of see what you're saying. The Brentford kit actually does kind of work in a strange way, but I wouldn't I'm quite happy with Villa's kit. I don't have an issue with it.
I still want pink anyway. I think we should have a pink away kit. QPR lead the fashion in terms of away kits. Yeah, Lime green, wasn't it?
QPR are shit.
Well, they got McLaren, didn't they? But that's another topic. Give them an umbrella.
Right. And with that little diversion out of the way, let's give listeners a little bit of a break from us. Stu, Kirsty Gallagher is now presenting 606 on Saturday evenings on Radio 5.
That's a shame.
Why is that a shame?
Because she's
very
not
good.
Yeah, but
because you want to see her on TV and perv over her.
I wasn't going to say that.
Stu, you can't treat women like objects. I mean, I'm not here perving over female wrestlers, for example. I mean, it's ridiculous.
No, what I mean, I'm married now with kids, but Kirsty Gallagher is just like an all-time, like, I don't know, she's just like, she's never aged. She probably has, because we all age, don't we? Do you know what I mean? But
Stu's wisdom of the week. We all age.
But I think, no, she should be in front of a camera. Wasted radio. Wasted.
Well, maybe you know what to listen, because I listened to her first broadcast on 606 this weekend with Robbie Savage. Utter filth. Just listen to this.
Hello, yes, it is 6:06 time. I'm Kirsty Gallagher. Listen, Matt, you said that you'd wasted 90 minutes of your Italian holiday already, but thank you very much for coming on the phone. But I have to say this, if you heard a bit of squeaking there, we'll put a picture up later on Twitter or Instagram. And quite a few coming on Twitter already this afternoon. You're excited, I'm excited. And Archie has been very patiently waiting. You're a Cardiff fan, Archie, and thank you for coming on the phone. Hello. You're only 12 years old. Thanks for coming on the phone. We like younger listeners. This is fabulous. This is getting into dangerous territory. Apparently I owe you a drink. Do it again next week.
I mean, I don't know where to go from there. I think we should just move on.
Exactly.
Disgraceful, but hopefully more next week. Neil Coxless pairs. Right. This week's Stu, West Ham and Wimbledon players. So basically players that played for both West Ham and Wimbledon. Okay?
Okay.
Let's see again with these. I like these this week. I had a lot of fun putting these together. So, number one, Wimbledon's all-time record signing.
Super John Hartson.
Okay, and this is all football related. So, see if you can get this one. Chinese international defender who played 130 games for Manchester City. I reckon this was about 2007, 2008, around that time, maybe, about 10 years ago.
Yeah. Joe, you said to me they're all football related, and then you chucked me a Chinese name in.
I know, but you have got the first part of the clues to help you.
John Hartson, so it's Sun's. It's obviously son, isn't it? John Hartson. No.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, John Hartson.
John Hartson. What's the next bit?
I don't know. I can't remember his name.
You're going to kick yourself. It's John Hartson Ji Hai.
Oh, I'm not good at my Chinese names.
Right, American goalkeeper, joined Wimbledon FC in 2000. Do you remember?
And played West Ham as well.
He played 3 games for West Ham.
Oh. 2000 would have been around then.
He wasn't first choice at any point.
Yeah, but I'm not quite good at my goalkeepers. That worries me. 2000, Kelvin Davis was around that time, wasn't he? Ian Foyer.
Very good. Ian Foyer. So, I don't think you've got a chance. Right, character portrayed by Jaleel White in the American sitcom Family Matters.
Yeah, I'll take my half point.
I'll
tell you what, half point.
Ian Foyerkel.
Okay.
Urkel. Moving on. You get better. Midfielder that joined AFC Wimbledon on loan from West Ham in 2012.
On loan from West Ham?
Yeah, dad played for West Ham.
George Wonka.
And Central Asian country that shares a border with China, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan and Kazakhstan.
What?
Central Asian country that shares borders with China, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan and Kazakhstan.
I'm trying to think it was around that area of the world. Korea. What did I just say? What was the first answer? George Monkorea.
You know, there was talk earlier in the week about the general public's lack of geography skills and geography knowledge. Yeah,
Japan.
Case in point. Here we go. George Monker, Japan.
No, I'm just trying to think what's around the area.
I don't think Japan. Let's just put that one to bed straight away. For many reasons, it's not Japan. My word. All right, I'm just going to tell you. It's George Kyrgyzstan, right? Okay, Kyrgyzstan. Japan. Japan.
Do you know what? I get confused with China. Because you think that Chinese thing, didn't you? Our geography's not normally that bad. But I definitely laughed. Last night when I was at the ground, Jay Losdale, mate, was laughing at this. I was so embarrassed. She was having a discussion with her son, and she asked me how to spell a word. I didn't actually hear her, first of all. I thought she said zone or something like that, so I spelled it out, and it wasn't that. It was donuts.
Brilliant.
And do you know what? I couldn't remember how to spell it.
Did you do the Dunkin' Donuts DONUTS?
No, the problem was I was so thinking about what was happening in football and how we were going to attack the second half. It was right in the second half that I really couldn't get my brain in gear how to spell donuts. And Jane, bless her, she had a really disappointed look at her face because I think she thought I was going to provide wisdom to her son on how to spell something. And I just had to say, I use spell check a lot of times.
Yeah, we've noticed. Donuts, though, it's a great word, Stu, for me to get a mini rant in here about phonics and teaching kids how to spell using phonics, because that O-U-G-H sound is a pain in the backside, all right? Because there's about 20 different ways you can pronounce it. But we're not going to bore the listeners with that because we've got one more go on Neil Cox's pairs, and it is, of course, the wrestling round.
Yes.
You've got no chance. A left winger known for spectacular strikes, including 2 goals at Wrexham in the FA Cup. Arguably, probably one of your favourite Wimbledon players of all time.
Oh, Mr. Hughes. Not to be confused with Kerry. This is Michael Hughes.
It's Michael Hughes, but you did say Mr. Hughes, which was great because that was also a wrestler in WWE, but not what we're looking for. The second part is the stadium that hosted WrestleMania 8 in Indianapolis. And I'm just going to give...
That'd be rather John Green, wouldn't it?
I don't think he's a big wrestling fan, to be honest with you. Michael Hughes, I can't even say it, it's so difficult. Michael Hugheserdome. Michael Hugheserdome. Yeah, it's kind of a tricky one to say for me for some reason. I was struggling with that one, but there we go. Another one of those next week. Premier Passions, my word. How late are we going to be this week? Let's try and do this very quickly. So this is episode 5 of Premier Passions, the final episode, and it is Judgment Day because Sunderland are going into the last game of the season. They need... Basically, by the sounds of it, they never really talk through the specific maths, and I couldn't be able to look it up. But basically, if they'd have won, they'd have stayed up. Of course, they were away at Selhurst Park to play our good selves. This was first broadcast on 24th.
Away at Selhurst Park? You mean away at Wimbledon?
Away at Wimbledon, yes, but you know what I mean. It wasn't Wimbledon that day. I think Sunderland fans outnumbered us considerably.
Most of the time they did.
Yeah. 24th of March 1998, this was broadcast. Basically, this show is essentially in 3 parts. So they go straight into the Wimbledon game. They then talk about the fallout from the result of that game, and then they look ahead to when the stadium is opened, and they go quite a way ahead into the following season. But in terms of our game, let me run through some of these things. I'm just trying to see what I can say and what we've got time for, really. So I'll say the coach. You see the coach with the players arrive at Selhurst Park, and it looks very familiar. That was a nostalgia trip and a half. Nostalgia, I guess, is the right word. Hey, look, I grew up watching Wimbledon at Selhurst Park, so do you know what? Sorry, for me, it's nostalgic. Sunderland are in a change kit. Angry. I was livid. Why? I'd forgotten about this. Why were they in a change kit? Red and white does not clash with blue. That said, Walsall, by the way, having played in red on Saturday, managed to stay in red on Tuesday night. Amazing feat. They managed this, so well done, Walsall. Very, very impressed that they were in their home kit. We are 2 out of 2 for clubs in their proper colours. I'm wondering how long this can last, and hopefully Sunderland make it 3 out of 3. Don't let me down, Sunderland. If Sunderland turn up in red and white on Saturday, I'm going to be pissed off. I might storm out. They
won't, because they're an ex-Premiership club. They will look at wearing their away kit at the away ground. I lay money they will not wear.
Also, Puma, do one with your tracksuit tops. Not having this.
Can I just say, I went from laughing at Coventry game to us wearing the what do they call it now? The matchday tracksuit or matchday top? They call it now, don't they?
Yeah.
That's a way to sell it, isn't it? But do you know what? I do like it. I like the fact that we've got like AFC Wimbledon on the back of them. I know it's very simple. It's not difficult to do, but it just. I
don't like teams coming out wearing tracksuit tops. I think
it just looks very old. Do you know in Damned United when they have the Leeds United team? It reminds me of that. Just like it seems very nostalgic. I quite like it. It's a nice top. It's a nice blue. But I did go through, and people will say to me I'm hypocritical now because I did go through a lot of last season moaning that clubs did that, and we're now doing it. But yeah,
I agree with you. The actual tracksuit top itself is very nice. If you can purchase these in the club shop, by all means, because it is very nice and it's a very nice colour, a very nice shade of blue that we use. But don't walk out onto the pitch on it, in my opinion. Also, I'm not seeing it. Is it who actually has the job of when the players take the jackets off? Who has the job of picking them all up and taking them off?
I was just thinking that. I'd imagine
Robin had to do
Rocket.
that.
Yeah, I imagine Rocket would do that.
I wasn't paying attention.
Trev wouldn't do that. Trev would just say, "Oh, Trevor stayed near the touchline and let Rocket do it." I don't know, to be honest with you.
There's our headline for the podcast this week. 9 years podcast slates club matchday experience, and presenter Stuart Deacons abuses volunteer kitman.
Hey, anyone knows Trev? Trev abuses me. Trev will not let me do that. But
verbally,
and I have to say, can I just say something very quickly? We say about the quick turnaround on games. It is a lot of pressure on those guys, and they do it with a smile on their faces because they are going back to back games at the moment and getting a kit ready. So yeah, well done, guys.
Yeah, we're going off on all tangents today, aren't we? But yes, very well said. That is very, very true. They do an outstanding job, and they're going to have a very hard time of it because we've got Checkatrade trophies and Burtons and Gillingham's away. It's a hard, very, very tough start to the season. Same for the programme team, we must say, for everyone that works on the programme.
Yes.
Who, 3 programmes in a week is tough going, especially the size of the things now. So, I think sometimes these little jobs, a lot of people perhaps don't realise the amount of free labour that goes into that. But anyway, right, where did that leave us? Sunderland, sorry. Us versus Sunderland in the Premier League, 1997, of course. That press officer, you know how I said last week, like an attractive owl. That's how I described her. Yeah, she looks, she's in the crowd, so that was her cameo appearance this week. I thought because it was the last game and they had to win to stay up, they might change the music. No. I'm so glad this is the last one, just so I don't have to listen to that ridiculous whatever it is. It's that gospel mixed in with Casio keyboard, drum, bass. Anyway, nothing major happens in this game, to be honest with you. A few chances at either end, half chances. Michael Bridges is playing for Sunderland. He's 14 at the time. And there's a bit of an argument breaks out. Peter Reid gets into a bit of a row with a fan behind the goal. They don't really explore this too much. They just show them angrily yelling at each other. They sort of cut from one to the other. You don't see both of them on the screen at the same time. Bit weird that. But anyway, Jason, your scores, and we win 1-0. Oivind Leonhardt and Neil Ardley, whatever happened to him, and Peter Fear are the first ones in to celebrate with Jason Hill. Wow, what a team.
Peter Fear, eh?
How did Peter Fear get in that team? Robbie L, Oivind Leonhardt, and Efan Akoku, Dean Holdsworth. Yeah, Peter Fear.
Peter Fear was a great one. I used to know Peter Fear's bank manager, trust me.
I bet you did. I think you tried to con him, and weren't you his bank manager?
No, I can probably tell this story now because it's now well past Peter Fear's playing career.
I don't know, Stu. This was 20 years ago. I mean...
But I used to know his bank manager very well. He's a very good friend of mine. And Peter Fear, he struggled to know what to do in between training and, going to train the next day. And used to go to Sutton quite a lot to have beverages. And my mate, who was a bank manager in a well-known bank in Sutton, would sometimes go and have to take money to him when he run out. Put it this way, he was on a decent salary and spent quite a lot of money on drinks.
Yeah. He should. You're going to love this. You're going to love this. He should have been called. Wait for it. This is brilliant. He should have been called Peter Beer.
Yeah. But yeah, my mate had a few.
Sorry, can I just say it's jokes like that, which is why we get paid so much to do this.
Yeah, so he was bank manager of Peter Fear and also Dean Gordon, if you remember Dean Gordon.
Oh, I do. Yes, no surname.
And I played Paul against Dean Gordon in Sutton as well. He wasn't very good, but yeah, Dean Gordon's quite a nice guy. I think it was when just before he got the move to Middlesbrough, if I remember properly. And
was at Palace, yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah, nice guy, but yeah, Peter Fear. I could tell that story now. I don't think it's going to do any damage, but. Yeah, in a way, it highlights the fact of them players at the time of basically adjusting to what do you do when all your friends are working. That's what a lot of them have problems with nowadays.
Sunderland's problem, of course, was the fact that they were going down. So, to put it bluntly, this was, if you remember, there's a Coventry game, there was a problem and it got delayed. Kickoff was delayed. Coventry were away at Spurs. So their game finished about 15, 20 minutes after the Sunderland game finished. So Coventry were winning 2-1, and if Spurs equalised, I think Sunderland would have stayed up in the end, the way it all worked. So the Sunderland players were all having to watch CFAX. This is brilliant. They're sat in Selhurst Park in a room watching CFAX for updates on the score. The TV, the documentary has Radio 5 commentary on in the background in the days when Sky didn't broadcast every last little thing. And this is brilliant. They just stood there. And also what's great is in the background, they've got the old Wimbledon FC duvet covers acting as curtains, which made me wonder, did they use the same pattern and design as duvet cover and curtains, which if they did is amazing and thrifty, I think is the word. I don't think I'd ever thought I'd say that word in the podcast. But they lose, they're down, they're gone. Transistor radios everywhere in the stadium as fans who have stayed behind listen in, and that's it. They've lost. Coventry have won. Fans depart silently, very downhearted. Kevin Boris was telling me the other day, actually, that apparently there was a bit of crowd trouble afterwards, which was unbeknownst to me at the time, I must admit. I exited the stadium and made my way home and was unaware of any problems after the game. Apparently there were, and a bit of a lockdown inside the President's Lounge, or the Glazers Lounge, or whatever it was. So, unsurprised, but
I remember that afternoon very well, because I remember thinking, we've just relegated them. They don't know yet, but they probably aren't get relegated. And I don't really want to be here when they realise they got relegated. So I got out of the ground as quick as possible. I do remember that after. And it's really weird as well. You talk about the transistor radios, and some of our younger fans will never experience that. Not because, if you think about our matchday experience now, that word again, it's basically iPhone or whatever phone you have, checking the scores coming in, Twitter. Wouldn't it be great to go back to a day where actually, do you know what, you didn't use your phone and you just...
Oh, I hate my phone now. I actually hate it. It ruins my life.
But it does. But, if you think back to them days, and I remember going to games very much when I was younger, I sometimes used to go to Tuna Mitcham, who I live very close to. And I remember the days of people listening to their radio and up to their ear and everyone else could hear it, but you were trying to listen to see what scores are going on, where nowadays you just put your phone on and you get it straight away. Those were the days.
I do miss those simpler times. I really, really do, except for podcasts, of course, which are awesome. John Motson does an interview with Peter Reid afterwards. For some reason, Peter Reid is farting all the way through it. Watch it back. Go and have a look. Find the Peter Reid interview in the corridors of Selhurst Park. He's just, I don't get why he's farting all the time. But then they speak to the fans and give, those fans that we've had, so our regulars throughout this run, throughout the series, the fish and chip man, the decorator that never did any work, the private girl student. Clearly she is being privately educated.
She's too well spoken for up there.
She's too well spoken. The teacher, the science teacher, and there was one other. Who was the other one? What do they do for a job? Was that it? Was it just the four of them?
Maybe I think so. Yeah, I think it's just them.
But they're all they've moved now into the stadium, but yet they still wear their clothes as if they are doing their job. So the science teacher is sat in what I think it's like a local non-league ground in her white lab coat for some reason. The chip man is in full-on whites on the terrace in Roker Park. It's like, what's going on, guys? Okay, that's just weird. No one dresses like that in there. But anyway, it doesn't matter. And they're just talking about the shame of it. The private school girl says the shame of going into school the next day and facing up to everyone. I was like, oh, I remember that well. The day after Southampton in 2000. And I didn't even have to go into school because I was on study leave for GCSEs at the time. So they work out my age from that one, my actual age. And I had to go in for I remember this so vividly, a Spanish revision class. And there was only like half a dozen of us in with the teacher. I was absolutely useless that day. To the point where the teacher was openly mocking me at how shit I was because my head was just not in it. I just remember her. I remember one point she looked at me with those eyes of, what's happening? What's going on? I was like, she should have just said, just leave. My head was not in it. But, that's the pain of getting relegated. Of course, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't actually mean anything, to be honest with you. No, but, we do sort of romanticise it a little bit, don't we? Groundsman calls it a disgrace, whatever. Kevin Ball says he's disappointed because it's the third time he's been relegated. I'm thinking that's why he changed his name to Herman Horizon. Didn't work for him, did it? And then he sort of showed that the ground's being torn down ahead of the new stadium being made. A scarf has been tied to a crash barrier in the turnstile. I'm thinking, why did you do that? Why did you leave your scarf tied to a crash barrier in Roker Park? You know what's going to happen. You've just lost the scarf, and it's not a memento or a souvenir because it's just going to be demolished. Whatever. I'm getting angsty now, you can tell. I don't know why. I really don't know why. It's all this talk about matchday atmosphere and stewards. It's got me upset. Yeah, they have to go down to London anyway. The chairman has to go down and explain to the stock exchange why they've gone down and what's it all mean. That's quite interesting, actually, if you get a chance. This was the best part. So the supporters get a chance to speak to the board about the season, where it went wrong. And they're talking about this age-old problem they had throughout this series of not being able to sign players and sign a striker. So they discussed, they said, look, we tried to get players in. We really tried. Do you want a list of names? And they were just like, if you can give us a list of names, give us a list of names. What's the first name, he says, as a player that they tried to sign for Sunderland?
Would it have been a Geordie?
No.
Oh, okay. I'm trying to think now, at that sort of time. Well, I don't know. Noel Quinn they got, didn't they? Would they have anyone decent? I'm trying to think it was around at that time. Ian Wright, someone like that?
That would have been just as absurd, actually. No, Paul Scholes.
Oh, wow.
They actually said, he says, yep, we tried time and time and time again to get Paul Scholes, but Manchester United was saying no. No shit that Manchester United said, sorry, no.
Well, I'm sure at New Ireland's tried to get Alexis Sanchez quite a few times, but we've not let that slip out, have we?
No, shush. We're not allowed to mention that one. Your golf traveller paying his wages. Lee Clark from Newcastle was one. I think they later did get him. There was all problems with him I think, at some point. Paul Gascoigne, they mentioned. Andy Cole. I mean, come on. This is the worst transfer strategy ever.
There's your Geordie, isn't it?
Football Manager, when I'm taking over Burton Albion, I'm trying to sign blooming Gareth Bale. I mean, give it. No wonder
that tells you exactly what exactly. That tells you why they got relegated, because their strategy obviously was a little bit. Do you think they just got caught out of this, thinking we have a new ground, they won't recognise how rubbish we are, really?
Yeah, it didn't work. It clearly didn't work. But the new stadium. So let's scan ahead now, because the real interest bit is there's because I can't believe I didn't tie this in earlier. So they got the grounds. They've been relegated. They're in Division 1. They got the ground built. First game, big opening, big ceremony against Ajax. But they have huge problems. This is actually I really enjoyed this week's show. If you get a chance, do find it on our YouTube channel, episode 5, because this is good fun to watch back. But there's all sorts of problems with, guess what, Stu? Tickets.
Oh.
Apparently, there's problems. Well, first of all, they had to wait until the day of the game to get a safety certificate from the council so they could actually stage the game. But there's lots of problems at the ticket office. Lots of people have paid for their tickets, but they've not been received. People that have got receipts for tickets, not received them, and then the tickets have been sold to somebody else. Huge queues at the box office. Massive, massive problem. The ticketing manager is really not happy, and he can't explain why. He just says a computer problem that no one can figure out exactly what went wrong. And it's quite funny to watch fans moan about ticket problems as if, say no more, really. What's quite funny is that the guy, the project manager, who's a bit of a dick, to be honest with you, he's on the phone saying, don't worry, he says it's definitely no more than 6,000 tickets. I'm thinking that's a lot of tickets. That's 1 in every 7 tickets, which you're saying there's a problem with. That's not good. That is not good. But anyway, they managed to sort it in the end. There's a bit of confusion on the day. They didn't number the seats until like half an hour before they opened the doors, so they got some of the numbering wrong. All sorts of problems. It's a bit amateur, to be honest with you. And then they announce they go back in time somehow to the day before when they open the stadium at midnight, the midnight press conference to unveil the name of the Stadium of Light. The chairman or the chief executive goes to address fans afterwards because they're not happy, and one fan clearly just on camera simply says, I don't like it. And I laughed and I laughed and I laughed. They use words such as disgrace, laughing stock, a stolen name. I thought, at least the guy's gone out there to talk to you about it. Do you know what I mean? He's fronting up, so fair enough.
Because wasn't the stadium like the old Benfica?
Yeah, it's Benfica's stadium name, so yeah.
It was, wasn't it? Benfica's. Has that changed? I'm trying to think now. It's going back a bit now.
It's still a Stadium of Light, isn't it?
Yeah. You never know. We might call our stadium something. I don't know what we're going to call ours. Ours is just going to be called Ploughley.
It's just going to be called. No, you know it's going to be. I'm not going to say it. I don't want to get in any more trouble. So they fast forward November 97. So they're playing in Division 1. Crowds are still pretty good though. 30,000 plus average attendance, which is very good for that level. They're playing Tranmere at home in November. They've gone something like 8 unbeaten going into it. They hilariously asked people, how are you finding life in a lower league? And I'm like, they're in League One now. So if the Division 1 was really bad back in the day, Championship was bad, what they're going to think on Saturday, I have no idea. But yeah, they win 3-0. They're 3-0 up at half time. Kevin Phillips and Lee Clark, apparently their new signings, they're scoring the goals. They've been very, very good. And with 7 games, it ends just with some text that says 7 games to go. They are second in the division and attracting 40,000 fans on average, which is incredible, really. Of course, they ended up losing the playoff final that year to Charlton, didn't they? So sucks to be Sunderland. But hey, that on the whole, that was I enjoyed watching that. That was fun going through that. And now we welcome Sunderland to Kingsmeadow for our first meeting with them in 18 years.
And it's going to be an experience, isn't it? We definitely know that they have the capacity to take a lot of fans away from home. I hear they're taking 2,000 to Gillingham quite easily. So, we have 2 teams coming to visit us, don't we? Sunderland, who could quite easily probably bring 2,000, and West Ham, 2 days later, could probably quite easily again bring 2,000. So, these next 2 home games I can't wait for. But Sunderland, Saturday, big team, low expectation, new manager, new team. Yeah, I'd rather play them now. Whilst we can.
As we are recording this on Wednesday evening, as you expect, we don't have the full-time score for you for Sunderland's game at Gillingham that Stu just referenced, but after 28 minutes on the BBC website, which I'm looking at right now, they are 3-1 up.
Okay, wow. Okay.
They went 1-0 down after 3 minutes, and they equalised within a minute. And it's quite funny. Maguire, who I was going to mention, is one to look out for on Saturday. Honeyman then went 2-1. Power, I'm not familiar with Power, but he made it 3-1. So that could be keep that one.
You're not familiar with Power. It's interesting that, because he's the guy that scored against us for Wigan in the 4-0 win.
Oh, is that Max Power?
That's Max
Sorry,
Power.
my voice got really high there. That's quite embarrassing.
Do you know what? That brought me back to Monday night watching Jamie Carragher and Gary Neville. If you haven't watched Monday Night Football, you have to listen to the argument they had about Arsenal and not having a plan B. Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher were trying to get as high pitched as they could. And
I think I beat with that.
You probably did.
Wish I could re-record that bit. But yeah, no, Max Power. How did I? Sorry, that's very foolish of me. Max Power, of course.
He's on loan from Wigan.
Yeah, and he scored. And fresh from his appearance on The Simpsons many years ago. Let's not go down that line now. They've got a lot of. I'm looking at that team. They've got a lot of good players, though, haven't they? Let's be fair. Kind of thinking we didn't write them off completely, did we, at the start of the season? But we didn't think they'd be in amongst it. But I'm retracting that very, very quickly, because the names, there's a lot of talent there.
Well, I called it Shrewsbury were going to do rubbish, and look at them. Not that I want to sound right, of course.
I said Burton are going to finish in the top 2, and look how right I am. So
yeah, but then I did also say that Oxford probably would sack their manager the first, and I'm so hoping. Actually, do I want to be right? Because surely the longer he stays, the more enjoyable it is.
Can we stick to the subject now? Come on, we're so late. It's unreal. I don't want to talk about that man anyway. Let's move on. Let's wait till he's actually sacked.
Don't sack him.
All right, Sunderland players. Who have they got?
So I looked through as well. They've obviously got some links. So you've got McLaughlin in goal, who we were rumoured to be interested in when he left Burton, but then went up to Scotland, but has then come back down. So obviously their new manager, Jack Ross, has used his Scotland contacts and brought a few down. They've also used a lot from the academy. So Honeyman is one that they're using, and also.
I'm going to create a superhero character, Honeyman. Everything he turns. No, let's scrap that idea, because that's already gone down an alley we don't want to go down.
But I looked at Max Power, Honeyman in midfield. They have some. Yeah, do you know what? They have some. They've used a lot of. What they have done is they've obviously used a lot of their kids as well that come through their academy, which is sensible because they don't have loads of money, something at the moment. So. Yeah, you have worried me a little bit with them being 3-1 up already, because Gillingham have started the season very, very well. So, I look forward to seeing them on Saturday. Do
you want to venture a prediction for that one?
Do I want to venture a prediction? I'll take a draw now, I think.
I mean, I think we're very good, like we saw against Barnsley, which we've not even talked about. That was a very good point and a very good performance away at Barnsley. So lost in the shuffle of all the events and problems of Tuesday night, but we're very good at setting up defensively. So, I mean, I think we might be on the wrong end of maybe a 1-0 defeat, but we shall see.
Yeah, as long as it's not a Wigan, because Wigan did tear us apart, even though you could argue 4-0 wasn't a fair reflection, but a heavy loss at home after Tuesday night wouldn't be what I would want.
No, absolutely not. Any other game in League One that takes your fancy?
There was, and you've caught me unaware, so I know I did a quick look. Yeah, there's a couple. So you've got Bradford Wickham. Reason for that is they're just both struggling. So Wickham got a point at Plymouth in the week, and Oxford versus Burton, just because I think Oxford can't believe at bottom of the league, and I just quite enjoy it. What about you?
I must admit, Oxford Burton was one I picked out. I know I've just said about not talking about that man, but I mean, if that's the story for us at the moment in Division 1, League 1, whatever. So yeah, I think that is Burton, who else have not started great, 1 win from 4. So that for me is the interesting one. And as promised, I have found the date of the Dons Trust SGM that we spoke about earlier. So well done if you are still with us at this point. If you are still listening, maybe just tweet us with something. Tweet us with Alexa Bliss is a goddess, and then we'll know that you have listened this far into the podcast. SGM meeting, open to all Dons Trust members, is on the Thursday, September the 13th at 7:30pm at the stadium. So there we go. Thursday the 13th of September. We'll remind you of that closer to the time. I think that's finally it, Stu.
It is. There's a lot to talk about, wasn't there?
There was. I don't know how much sense we made, to be honest with you. Just shooting the breeze. But as we mentioned earlier, look, any comments, anything you've got, anything you want to say, contact us. We are on Facebook, not at 9YRS Podcast, Twitter the same. Email us, 9yrs@may14.co.uk, and we'll speak to you. So yeah, but aside from that, thank you very much for listening. Join us again next week. Stu, thank you for joining me.
No problem at all. Pleasure.
Remember, updates and Facebook live broadcasts will be from, we anticipate, Sunderland and West Ham over the coming week. So at 9YRS Podcast again on Twitter, facebook.com/9YRS Podcast. AFC Wimbledon Business Club this week, they are going pigeon racing with former Sheffield Wednesday forward Richie Partridge. That was purely so I could then say a partridge amongst the pigeons. We'll be back next Thursday with a review of those 2 games. Kevin Boris is on Love Sport Radio this Sunday to discuss the Sunderland game and preview the West Ham game further. Alexa Bliss, bag first, milk last, and we will speak to you again next week.
I'm drifting back into those glory days. They'll sing about girls and cars, sneaking in the bars, drunk fist fights and battle scars. Lord, how I wish those days were mine. And they'll sing about smoking in the glory days, chasing the ones they got away. Lord, I could spend this whole damn night dreaming about the sweeter times. Lord, you got your high school sweetheart. They're breaking all the rules. They're fogging up their